Hey, probably a bit unusual for those watching in Ireland and in the UK. I'm standing in the sunshine. I'm in New Zealand at the moment, in the Wairarapa, which is at the bottom of the North Island, about an hour from Wellington. And I'm here with Eddie Bosch. Eddie, and thanks for sort of taking me here for the day and talking me through the system. It's been interesting so far already. So yeah, with the cows are sort of very Jersey based herd of cows. 320?
340.
340 cows, yeah, on about 110
hectares.
110 hectare milking platform. Yeah. And you know, I came here because it's I think a lot of people coming from Ireland, the UK, come and see really big farms in Canterbury, and they see things that are probably not really truly the traditional New Zealand system, and this is I think much closer to what I pretty grew up with in New Zealand. So yeah, Eddie, you calve cows at the very end of July, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So they milk through to the end of May, sometimes into June, just depending how the season goes or the weather. And then they usually have five weeks off, and then we calve them end of July. Yeah. And then we sort of have a 9 or 10 week calving, and then between the end of calving and the start of mating, usually try have about 2.5-3 weeks in there, and then we try to put up from there your 90% submission rate in your first 3 weeks.
Yeah. So your cows are milked through the end of May into beginning of June. They actually stay on the farm in June because your growth rates are quite good in the South Wairarapa. It's warm enough, and you still grow sort of 20 a day through June. Yeah,
that's right.
And then they go to the runoff or support block at the end of June.
Yep. And
then you actually calve them on the support block and bring them back calved as they calve. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably a bit unique to our setup. Most farmers would calve them back at home.
Yeah.
They have a lot more oversight over the cows and that type of thing. We find with the Jerseys they have real calving ease, so we check them once at night and that's it. But we haven't really calved cows for a while now, so and we put beef over them and stuff, so they calve fine. Never really have an issue. So they calve at the runoff, and then
how far away is that?
About 10 kilometres.
All right.
And then so every morning would go there, probably 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, collect all the cows and calves, and then shift all the dry mobs and feed out hay and whatnot, and then back home by sort of 10 o'clock, 10:30. So, and then you're back to the farm.
Yeah. And so when they come back to the farm, they're just on grass?
Yeah, just on grass all through spring. And we sort of get our feed wedge up to a point where there's a good amount of feed ahead of them, and then sort of July our growth rates, and August our growth rates come down to probably about 10 or 8 a day, and then towards the end of August into September they start creeping up, and then you're sort of hitting 30-40, and then sort of you want to get to the end of about 20th of September, and then you want to get to your demand, which is about 60 a day, 65.
Yeah.
And that's
so your balance date is
usually around the 18th, 15th, 18th of September.
Yeah. Okay. Peak production sort of around that 1.8, 1.9, something like that. On just grass. But yeah, like this farm, you get really dry, and you know, I keep correcting people in Ireland and the UK about the word drought, but I mean you get times where it doesn't rain for 3 months.
Yeah, that's
sometimes
right.
Here. So you know, this year you've got quite lucky that just before Christmas you got a good bunch of rain and you grew some grass, but so that's the whole thing. You try and make the most of that early spring and get the cows peaking, get those cows producing well, and then what happens when your growth rates really dry? I mean, what do your growth rates get down to when it gets really dry? 0?
No. Oh, up on the hills here, when it after you sort of you get a 2-month drought and you're down to nothing. Like we sort of come up here every second round, so it might be once every sort of 40 or 50 days. but that's just more a bit of fresh air and something different, and we might feed out a bit of silage here.
Yeah.
But that sort of fits in with our cropping regime. But
you do turnips then too?
Yeah, we do turnips, yep. So that's more, if we can, late December, but it's usually January, February and into March. Because that's usually when the summer sort of takes hold, is January, February,
yep.
and then sometimes into March. But the bottom flats we can irrigate. There's about 40 hectares down the bottom that gets irrigated. And so that our growth rates through the summer period is still around 60 to 80 a day on the irrigated flats.
Yeah.
And then up here, so the other sort of 60% of the farm, yeah, it gets down to nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we said in the earlier, you get a bit of rain midsummer and it takes off again. So yeah, so just things to work with.
So you feed about 60 to 75 tonne of PK, which is about maybe 200 kilos a cow, and then you bring in from the support block, you bring in about
200 tonne of
dry matter of grass silage. Yeah, so that's only about 600 kilos of dry matter a cow, something like that.
Yeah.
And then your production is about sort of 360 to 390 kilos of milk solids a cow.
Yep.
So they're a small herd, like they're a small cow, so they're doing about 120% of their body weight. Yep. And that's an interesting thing. I think, you know, like over here, the fixed cost per cow, the physical fixed cost per cow and the financial fixed cost per cow are slightly different, and that smaller cow really works. I mean, we're nearly 2 kilometres from the cow shed, or the milking parlour as we call it over in Ireland. So, you know, we're quite away and up on the hills too.
Yeah, 80 metre elevation from the cow shed to here. Yeah. So they walk up 80 metres, and yeah, they're not here every day, mind you. You know, they're not always doing 2 kilometres, but.
So if they're here by day, do you keep them close by night?
Yeah, try to have a bit of a closer paddock at night. And we sort of do run day and night paddocks, and night paddocks tend to be closer. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
And so, I mean, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, about 10:30 they go to the turnips. Yeah. And how many kilos of dry matter are you trying to feed per cow?
So there they get in about between 2.5, 3 kilos of turnips, and about 2 kilos of palm kernel a cow.
Yeah.
So they come in the shed in the afternoon, and we sort of milk the extra row because they don't pack up tight enough because they come in so full. Yeah. So they sort of get in a little bit of their night feed during the day. They probably get in 10 kilos in the morning feed, and that's sort of transferred to the night feed, so they're probably getting about 6 to 7 kilos at night.
All right.
Yeah, because they come in, they leave the cow shed, they're still full. Yeah, so that works well. And the heat of the day, we find putting them on the turnips as a easy crop to eat. They don't mind. Yeah, they'd rather be there than in the paddock with this, you know, fibrous grass. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's about 10 o'clock now, so another half an hour and they'll be off the way to the turnips, which is probably a 45-minute walk from here, 50-minute. Yeah. And then so they're on the turnips for a couple of hours. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can stop at the turnips we'll have a look at the turnips, and we'll certainly stop and have a look at the view and the track on the way through, because it's it's probably a little bit different to what people would usually see from New Zealand farms, but probably more traditional, average sort of a thing for the Wairarapa, where I've always sort of farmed over the years. Yeah. 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 Certainly nice views back here. No, it is. Oh, a brilliant day too. Yeah. Yeah. You get a lot of these. You do, eh? In New Zealand, yeah. Well, especially here, like closer to the Western Ranges, they get a lot more rain. And, yeah, so the cows are actually on the way down. So what time are they milked in the afternoon? About cups on about 2:30. Yeah. Yeah. So they're here for about 2.5 hours. Yeah, so we're just at the turnips. So the first crop of turnips was really good. It went in the beginning of November and you started grazing at the beginning of January. Yeah, yeah. But then you stagger the crops because obviously they're going to be in there for about a month. Yeah. And so the first crop got going real good because you had rain, and then you went through a patch with no rain. So these went in about 20th of November? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, mid-November. Mid-November? Yeah, 20th, yeah. And then we didn't get rain for 4 weeks. So we pulled some irrigation onto this. and then the day we finished irrigating, because we thought, oh sweet, they're looking good, they'll, you know, sort themselves out. And then we got an 80 mil of rain overnight, and then a couple of 40 mils follow up over that. So the crop went from looking good to it drowned pretty much, and then a whole lot of weed came through. So
yeah, so a lot of wild turnip in there. That's the flowering stuff, isn't it?
The yellow stuff. Yep.
Yeah, the yellow stuff is a wild turnip. So how many tonne of dry matter do you think per hectare would be the turnips?
Oh, it might be 5. Yeah, 5 tonne. There's some.
Love an optimist.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You look at the good bulbs, eh?
Yeah.
Don't look at the bad bulbs.
Yeah, there's a bit of space, and
yeah.
But you know, so and that's what happens with crops, isn't it? You know, you're very much reliant on the conditions at the time of it going in, and you have to get your timing, you know, your staggered timing and right when you've got a crop that you're tied to a certain days till grazing.
Yep.
Yep. And so they also get PK in here, and we'll have a look at the troughs. So cows just gather the, yeah, they have a feed of turnips, and they have a feed of PK then, yeah?
Yeah, so it's probably, they're getting about 2 kilos of PK just over, and then about 2.5 kilos of turnips.
So actually, going back actually about the winter grazing, so like the cows stay on the farm through June, then go out to the runoff. They're just on grass and hay through that time, yeah?
Grass and hay,
So,
so they're going into probably 4.5 cover of pasture.
Yeah.
And then
which is about 3,000 in Irish terms.
Right.
Because they like to do things differently, you know. So they talk available. So
available. Yep.
But so covers a 4.5 of grass and hay.
And hay. So the diet is probably as much as they can eat. So about 15, 16 kilos.
Wow.
So 4 of that will be hay, and 12 would be grass. Yeah. So they get in heaps.
Yeah.
And so that's in July, but they are dry for a month on the farm. So all of June they're on the farm as a dry cow, and then they get in more like milking tucker, you could say. So they're getting about 2 hectares. They're going into about 3,000, just over 3,000 cover, 3.5, and whatever they need of hay.
Yeah. Okay. Hay on top of that too. Yep.
Yep. Just to bulk them up.
Okay. Yep. And then so that grass that they're grazing through June, that's your first rotation again.
That's right.
In August, September, yeah.
Yep. So that's sort of first. You could say the first paddock you graze in June is a dry cow. That will be your first paddock that you're milking in 26th, 27th of July.
So what sort of average farm cover will you just start calving at?
About 2,150.
Okay.
What we aim to have. Yeah,
so we leave 600, 650 in Irish terms. Yeah, so that's amazing to grow that grass between, 1st of June, which is equivalent to the, June is your 6 months, so 1st of January.
Yeah, that'd be right, yeah.
No, hang on, no, 1st of December, yeah. So between the 1st of December and the 1st of February, you'd be growing enough cover to start milking again,
And we put in a bit of nitrogen, so as I said earlier, we're still growing sort of 20-25 through May, June.
Yeah.
So then we're following that round of dry cows with nitrogen, and then we sort of get to the end of June and we won't be putting any on. So the last couple paddocks that the cows graze, they don't get nitrogen, and you still get a good response.
Yeah.
Put it on about 60, 75 kilos of urea.
Yeah,
so 30 in.
30 of N still then, yeah. And then how much nitrogen do you use for the whole year?
We capped at 190. That's a cap that came in a couple of years back.
Yeah.
So we sort of try get to that. So it's anywhere between sort of 180, 190 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you do your first rotation, you follow with nitrogen on the first rotation?
Sort of halfway through. We just find end of July, start of August is a bit cold still, cold and wet.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a response out of it. We hold off to about the 15th of August, 20th of August.
You're growing 8 to 10 a day.
You are, yeah.
But the thing is, it's still too cold to follow it in.
To get a good response.
Yep.
So bang that on, late August, and you sort of your next grazing is on that balance state. So it's still sort of 4 weeks from the end of August to end of September. So you got that 4 weeks of growth from your nitrogen. Yeah.
What sort of rate would you be going on at?
That's about 40 N. So that's fairly high.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're sort of doing allocations of about 25 to 30 N. Yeah. From there on in. And then through summer, we sort of button off again because it gets too hot for the ryegrass.
Yeah.
So we just leave it.
What would your rotation length be for like your second, third rotations? What would you be sitting over 20 days all the way through?
Nah. So once we get into our second rotation, then we're in the middle of spring. It's peak growing. Then we're sort of between 19 to 21 days. Yeah. More because of the hills, we want to keep them short. So they're actually going into sort of 24, 25 cover.
Right.
If we go in too higher covers, they're going up there too often and doing the longer walks, and then they just don't graze the hills the same.
Yeah,
so we just try to keep them short. If they're eating sort of 900, we're happy.
Yeah, okay.
And then they're bringing it down to 1500. So that works good. And then the flats could be on about a 21 day round. So we're sort of,
But they'll be going into covers of 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000. Yep, 2.9.
Yeah.
Yep, 2.9, 3,000. Yeah.
And then you stretch your rotation out to sort of 30 plus days when you expect to be going into a dry spell.
Yeah. That could be through December somewhere. Would push that out.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes it could mean feeding out a bit of silage, but usually it's just you're growing well, and instead of shutting up a paddock to make baleage out of or something, you just use that as something to push your round out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's all about timing. That you got sort of 6 weeks you're playing around with, and you've got you got to think about, are we going into a dry period? What's the weather pattern? And you play around with a few levers and cross your fingers, and it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, that's brilliant. Sweet as. We'll go and have a look at the cow shed too, and wrap up there probably.
No, sweet as.
Cheers. Yeah, just at the cow shed here. How old do you reckon the cow shed is?
Oh, it'll be over 80 years old,
80?
Yeah, it's been sort of
must be one of the early herringbones then.
Yeah, well, it came through as a elevated bale to start with, and then that's why the close breast rail to the wall sort of started, and then all they did is extend, put another bale and then they made it a herringbone,
So, how many aside?
24 aside,
One man shed?
One man shed, You do to 340 cows in just under 2 hours. So it's pretty, quite a little shed, 2 yards. Yeah. Nothing has changed from 80 years ago, really.
No. Keep it simple, eh?
Awkward. Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting enough, I guess this whole system revolves around managing your cost structures really well. So, I mean, we were talking earlier, and you say, so you're a 50-50 share milker for a start. So we didn't cover that earlier on. You owned a herd and the machinery. Farm owner owns a farm. Profits are split 50-50. Oh, actually the income is split 50-50, and you all have different costs. So your cost structure is sitting somewhere around like
just over $2.
Just over $2. So if there's a $10 payout, your payout's $5.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And your cost structure is sitting just over $2.
Yeah.
So like you've got a bloody resilient system.
It is.
Where you're running your cost structure low enough to have some really good meat, even if your payout's sitting at $7 and you're getting $3.50, you're still meeting the whole thing. Look, it's been really interesting. I think seeing something that perhaps we don't see enough of is a bit more what the New Zealand dairy industry was built on, I suppose.
I think so. You don't see this type of thing, too many share milking jobs around anymore.
No.
And also just with the infrastructure that's here, like we're happy as with it, and it's cheap to run. Like you can't beat a herringbone shed for cost structure.
Yeah.
Like you don't do anything to it.
Even herd size, I suppose, it's closer to the New Zealand average. Whereas, it'd be interesting to go and have a look at some of the big herds, but like it's and I guess traditionally when people come over from overseas, they tend to see the bigger herds, big rotaries and everything else. But this is I grew up going through the 50-50 share milking structure, and it did us very well. We were able to build equity really well. which you've done as well. So you've paid off your herd, and you've together with a brother bought a small farm.
Yeah, smaller farm. Yeah, not far from here. Yeah, 200 cows.
Yeah, and you've got a manager running that.
Yeah, manager running that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're sort of quite hands off from that, you could say.
Yeah.
Might do sort of a day's worth of work and sort of every second or third week type thing. So.
What do you have here for staff?
So we have two sort of full timers. They probably do between 6 and 8 hours a day. So it can be run on a two staff, like myself and someone else.
Yeah.
But then you're quite busy, especially when people take leave and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So we found we've been running this way for probably the last 3 years, having two staff plus myself.
Yeah. And
it just gives a lot of flexibility. People can leave early or start late or whatever they need to sort their families out and whatnot.
Yeah, nice.
So it's pretty good. Yep.
Cool. So it's just milking shed. Just you rear your calves in there's a 4-bay shed there. Or
there's a doubles as a hay shed. So we store our hay in there from now till when we need it in June.
Yeah.
And then the hay gets cleaned out and bang some gates up and put a bit of shavings down, and it's a calf shed.
Yeah, very simple.
And they're there for about 3 weeks in the shed, and they go outside.
Yeah.
So again, being a warmer, drier climate on the South Wairarapa, you can have the calves out pretty early. Even though they're Jersey calves, they're fine. Yeah. And if you get a storm come through, you might pop them behind some trees or in a shed somewhere, but it's only for a night or two.
Yeah, there's nothing between here and Antarctica, is there? So when there's a southerly comes through, it's like the fridge door opens. But looks really interesting. Thanks for your time, and really appreciate that. And hopefully it's interesting for people to have a look at good Kiwi as share milking system. So thanks, man.
No, all good.
Cheers.
Yep, sweet as. See you.